The Aggies, the Jazz, the high schools. If it's the sport you care about, we're talking about it. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Are we on the air?
Mike's hot.
Did I ever tell you, when I used to go do that radio show in Salt Lake, Lavelle Edwards, it was the Legend Show with Lavelle and Ron, and Lavelle would always do that. He'd be just like eating something or drinking his Diet Mountain Dew, and then he'd just be like, "Hey, Scotty," and he'd tell him something, and then you just hear Scotty go, introduce him back onto the show, and then all of a sudden, Coach would be like, "Oh, are we on the air?" and Coach McBride would always just provoke me. "Yeah, say whatever you want." Oh man, that was bad. That was chaos. It was fun, but my gosh, there were some times in me when one pulled your hair out.
So it sounds like this show.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Except we don't have any legends on the show. It's just you and me.
Just people who want to pull our hair out.
Two peons who suck at our job. And hey, I've been doing
at least you don't eat on the microphone. That's.
Oh, dude, no, I couldn't.
That is the worst.
Dude, that makes me cringe right now just thinking about it when he used to do that.
There's somebody in the building who does that.
No.
He'll be eating something.
No.
And he thinks he's got enough down before he turns the mic back on, but you can tell he's still clearing his mouth and swallowing it. It's just make sure it's all the way down, swallow, clean your teeth, then turn your mic on. Because it's yeah, and yeah.
Hey, so
don't do it.
I hosted the VFX show this morning with McCall, with Ajay gone in Cambodia or wherever he's at, and
Hong Kong.
I made fun. Well, okay, I didn't make fun of. I gave my own personal opinion of Star Wars, and I had this mom of 4 children send an email in, just ripping me a new one, saying that she's a faithful listener. But then she called me AJ Knight. And she's like, AJ is, he's such an arrogant, selfish, rude person or whatever. And I have to edit some of the things she said. And I was like, wait, hold on. Who's AJ? So then she's like, I'm a faithful listener. And I'm like, well, obviously you aren't, because you would know that AJ's been gone for 2 days or whatever. But yeah, I got my first hate email, which was great.
That's always nice.
Yeah, it just means that you've made it, right?
You've reached a certain level when you start to get hate
I've
mail.
reached Stephen A. Smith level or Skip Bayless level. So, anyways, how are you, Eric?
I guess maybe I won't tell you about the other hate mail we've received.
From one certain individual that will leave nameless. Can't do it. Oh, man. How are you, man? Big night.
I'm good. Hey, first I want to thank you for handling duties last night. I had to skip out a little bit early.
Hey, you had stuff to do.
Last night.
Not a big deal.
I had the honor to participate in the Christmas Tree Jubilee. It was held at the Riverwoods. It's a big fundraiser that happens every year for it's a benefit auction for the Cache County School District. Well, it benefits the Cache Education Foundation, and all those funds go to the teachers and students in the Cache County School District. Anyway, it was an awesome night, and raised, these are unofficial numbers, but, 25,000 grand plus.
What?
That was awesome. It was great.
Eric, that's great. No kidding.
Really cool. So great support from the community. Really appreciate the businesses and other people who made it happen. So anyway, if I could... Little plug there, a little personal plug. Appreciate those
dude.
That made it happen.
It's a rightful plug as well. That's incredible, man. This time of the year, Cache Valley is so good about responding to doing good things for people. I think Cache Valley is great about that, and obviously, that proves that point. And so, good for you, happy for you guys in Cache Valley School District, and again, great for Cache Valley to chip in and help out as well. That's awesome.
The worst part of the evening was probably having me be the MC, but the rest of the evening went well.
So what is that like? So McCall was telling me she has to go be the MC for this Miss Cache Valley thing. You've had to be the MC for a few events as well. How long does it take for me to be on the air for people to be like, you know what? That's our guy. Give us the brown mamba. Give us the burr.
The burr.
I mean, come on now. I've got to be a legend at some point. Some guy called me Ajay 2 weeks ago. He's like, "Hey, man, I'm a huge fan of your show, Ajay," and I was like, "Who? What? Thank you. So I guess I need to get my name right first before I can upgrade myself.
Correct. It's a correct pronunciation is Ajay Salvesen.
Ajay Salvesen.
Ajay Salvesen.
Man, look at you, Mr. MC. God, you just do it all, Eric.
No, I don't.
Hey, big night tonight. The college football playoff rankings come out at 5 o'clock.
Yes.
Does Utah move? Does Utah stay? What does Alabama do? I mean, they beat Western
How far
Carolina.
does Oregon drop?
And that's a big telling to see what what the committee thinks of the Pac-12 in itself.
Because that absolutely has implications for the Utes if they want a chance to get into the top 4.
Is that fair to you? That if Alabama, who will not make a conference championship game, still stays at number 5 and is the team that sits on the front porch knocking on the door to get in, versus Utah, who, if they can take care of business for next week, versus Colorado, will play in that Pac-12 championship, win it if they do, and then still not make the 4 because Alabama's sitting in front of them. That's got to bug people.
It does. I think there was some thought about how well could Alabama hold on to their position without Tua. They had a big game last week, but it was against a low
Western Carolina, man.
Team. Yeah, so if they only score maybe 25 points in that one, I think it's easy to see Utah leapfrogging them. But where they put 60-plus on them, they're probably like, we probably ought to just keep them there until they lose.
Do CBS Sports put them at a 25% chance to make the playoff, Utah? Over, under, percentage-wise?
Man, that's a good question. I would say over.
Me too.
I'd take the over because absolutely. You have 3 SEC teams ahead of them. That's not going to be like that here in a few weeks.
Georgia's going to lose to LSU, predictably, it's insane. Alabama without Tua at Auburn. People are saying that's a runaway for Bama. I'm not sure where they're getting that from. Auburn's a better football team than people are giving credit to.
I think that'll be a close game.
If Auburn beats Bama, that knocks them out. Oklahoma, and people are saying Oklahoma from the Big 12, if they can win their Big 12 championship, will leapfrog Utah if
and
they
that's
win
a possibility.
That's so bad.
Because their resume is stronger. They've defeated better teams. Utah doesn't have a very strong resume with teams that they've defeated.
And now, when we say that, do we talk about conference or out-of-conference schedule or both?
Yes.
Because look,
all of the above.
Yeah, but here's the problem. They can't control what their teams do in their conference. They can control their out-of-conference schedule, and that's where I put fault on them. Northern Illinois, they could have played Utah State, who is not great, but that's a better...
bold team.
Yeah, that's a better team that you're going to get out of than Northern Illinois or Idaho State. And so I think their out-of-conference is what's going to be the fault of them. I feel like they're in conference, so it's and the committee's got to understand that it's just out of their control. They have no control over that, 0. So we got to kind of.
I mean, Utah beat Arizona State,
and so then
who was ranked 17th at the time. They haven't defeated anybody else that was ranked.
Okay, but here's the problem, Eric. Why is Clemson 3 then? For what?
Well, I can agree with that. Their only reason is because they have not lost. So they should be ahead of Utah.
But Utah with that schedule would be undefeated. Utah would not have lost a game yet with that schedule.
Probably.
Clemson with this Utah schedule.
The only time Clemson was tested was early against Texas A&M.
North Carolina. Was it North Carolina? They won by 1?
Well, that's true. That's true. They did have the one game that was really, really close.
I was
talking about top 25 teams.
Oh, okay, I got you. No, good call. But if Clemson plays the Utah Ute schedule, they lose 2 games. I don't think they beat USC, and I don't think they'd trip up against one of the final opponents too. They're lucky to be in the ACC.
Yeah, Texas A&M was the only ranked team that they've defeated, and that was in week 2. They were ranked 12th. They did have that game that they escaped North Carolina by 1. But honestly, since then, they've dominated their opponents. So it's hard to not have them in the top 3. They are undefeated, and they have scored 45 points or more for 6 straight weeks.
Wow.
And only given up 2 touchdowns or less. So, I mean, how do you keep them out of the top 4?
Yeah.
I mean, Wake Forest has flirted with the top 25 throughout the season. They've been in, they've been out, they've been in, they've been out. And they killed them 52-3 last week.
Yeah, that's
so 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3 in my mind. They are as they should be.
LSU, Ohio State, and Clemson in that order. Is that right?
Yes. For me, that is the order. And some people think Ohio State should be ahead of LSU. I totally disagree.
I can't right now. I'm not ready.
LSU
for that.
has beaten multiple top 10 teams.
Yep.
But the number 4 spot is where there's great debate. Georgia right now deserves to be in there, I believe.
Why, though?
They're holding SEC opponents to 10 points or less.
They lost to South Carolina at home. And South Carolina's not a bowl team, are they? Because
no.
I mean, so their lone loss is at home.
Wait, are they a bowl team?
Yeah. Bowl eligible, I should say. Sorry, excuse me.
Bowl eligible. South Carolina, no.
So their lone
they're
loss
4-7 overall.
is at home to a team that's not going to make a bowl game. Utah's lone loss is at USC, who's in the top 25 and is a bowl team.
True.
Where's the fault? I'm sorry, I'm not seeing it. Now, Georgia beat Auburn. Is that right, though?
Yep, they beat Auburn 21-14, and they were ranked 12th at the time. They beat Florida, who was ranked 6th, 24-17.
Yes.
They beat Notre Dame, who was 7th, 23-17.
God, you're just shutting me up. Yeah, okay, fine.
Those are 3 really good reasons right there why Georgia is ahead of Utah.
But Georgia, if they lose to LSU in the SEC championship, they're both slated for that game. By the way, that's official.
Yep, it's already done. Yep, that's how it's going to be.
And we could get into this more in the 5 o'clock hour too when those ranking comes out. But really quickly, what would you look at in comparing Oklahoma, Utah, and Alabama? Because the committee says unequivocally the 4 best teams, right? That's what they say. But then they add in the caveat of, oh, well, you need to have won your conference championship game. Well, then what is Alabama doing in there?
Why is Alabama still part of the discussion?
Yeah. Why isn't it just Oklahoma and Utah, those 2 duke it out?
Alabama
what
will not appear.
About?
They're all they can do. They have nothing they can do to help themselves at this point.
Beat Auburn, that's great, but that doesn't get you in. Now, the chances that Alabama beats Auburn and Oklahoma leaps them after they win the Big 12 title game, what do you think?
Say that one more time.
Alabama beats Auburn, but Oklahoma wins out and wins the Big 12 title game. Does Oklahoma leap Alabama because they beat a ranked team in the Big 12 championship game with a better schedule than Alabama played?
Absolutely could be possible. They beat Texas, who was ranked 11th. They beat Baylor, who was undefeated at the time. They were ranked 13th. They'll face Oklahoma State this weekend, who's ranked 21st. So if they beat Oklahoma State, they could play Baylor again.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, look,
so
if you play that ranked team twice and you beat them twice, it's hard to because Oklahoma beat Baylor earlier in the season. Is that right?
Correct.
So then if you beat them twice, it's hard to say no to Oklahoma. That's a good schedule, Eric.
Yes. What hurts Utah the most is that Oregon lost. Because Utah's resume, I don't think on its own merits, is strong enough to say it's better than Oklahoma. It's better than Alabama. It's better than Georgia. It's not. I don't see it. And that's a function of the Pac-12 just beating up on each other.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Yeah, and that's how it's been for like the last 3 years, because that's why they got left out so much, right? Is because they kind of all just beat up each other, and the team that's left ranked.
Well, and the debate that's been rearing its head again is, why are you playing 9 conference games?
Yeah.
It's hard to go through that many conference games.
There's a lot of questions that Pac-12 commissioner needs to answer right now because he is on a roll backwards. And he's been that. I mean, it's been that way for like 3 years now. I mean, refs has been an issue. Game times have been an issue. Money financially has been an issue for that conference as a whole. Teams aren't happy about the way Mr. Larry Scott's handling that situation. Like it's bad all the way around.
Distribution for television.
Yeah, that's a
multimedia.
That's a big one. That's a huge one right now. So they, I'm kind of surprised he's still the commissioner of the Pac-12. I'm going to be flat out honest. But again, it's going to be really telling where we stand after tonight's rankings of the thoughts on the Pac-12 and the thoughts on the respect of the Big 12. And then, of course, the final rankings come out in 3 weeks because rivalry this week, conference championship next week, and then the final set comes out after that.
Right, so the rankings that reflect what happened last week come out tonight.
Yep.
Next week, after rivalry week, there's a new set.
And
then after the conference championship games, that's the final release.
My question, and then another one. Well, I'll ask that because we're going to get into all that in the 5 o'clock hour, and it's a jumbo of a mess too. But a ton of good college football playoff talk there. Again, the rankings come out about 5 o'clock. We'll give them here live on the air. Eric will have those rankings for you to release. And then we'll break it down, just kind of our thoughts and our opinions and, what it means leading into this Saturday. Obviously, Ohio State plays Michigan. Penn State's got a big game as well. Alabama, Auburn. I mean, there's games all over the place that really do mean a lot going into championship weekend next week. Eric, but let's start here. Mount West Conference football. We've been talking about head coaches who are on the hot seat. In fact, we actually before the season said these coaches are definitely on the hot seat, and if there is no bowl at the end of their season, they're gone. Mike Bobo was one of them for me. Tony Sanchez was one of them for you, and we both said Bob Davie.
Correct.
Tony Sanchez was released yesterday.
Yep.
Bob Davie released officially today. He'll coach the final game versus Utah State on Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock.
Yeah, which makes you wonder, how does that affect the team?
Yeah.
Do the Lobos rally?
Yeah.
Let's do one more for the coach.
Dude, those scare me. Those
it can be dangerous.
Really
those are
scary.
Emotional games.
When they
Senior
have
day.
Nothing to play for. I mean, there's nothing to lose. You go out there and just give it all you got and
hey, let's go show out for Coach on his last one.
Yep, his final one.
Now, Bob Davie has had some health problems this year. There was a few games that he missed that he wasn't able to participate in. His health he seems to be doing better now, but clearly he has been on this trajectory for 2.5 seasons.
Yeah.
Not only the win-loss record has been a problem, there have been off-the-field problems with allegations against him and his coaching staff. There was an athletic director who was taking money. There have been real rampant problems at New Mexico for the last couple of years. There is a new AD there trying to clean things up. They've been trying to do some facility improvements, but it's kind of a mess right now at New Mexico. Bob Davie's going to call it a day. They made the announcement officially. Actually, this was official yesterday at some point, but when the university released it. But he has a 35-63 record at New Mexico over 8 seasons. For some reason, that surprised me that he's been there that long.
Yeah.
But he started there in November of 2011. That's when he was hired, late November 2011. When he got there, the team had gone 3-37 in its previous 40 games. I had the lowest scholarship total in all of FBS. He had some moments where he turned some things around, made them a little bit more respectable, but ultimately just couldn't maintain it. And had some off-the-field issues that spilled over into how recruiting was affecting that. And just it wasn't really working out for him. And now he's had some health problems, and so they're just saying, let's just mutually decide to call it a day. At UNLV, it wasn't quite as mutual. Telling Coach Sanchez it's time to do something different, which is interesting timing there, too, because they They just had this big ceremony just the other day, not too long ago, finally unveiled their new, similar to Utah State's, academic and athletics complex. And so they've made some significant facility improvements at UNLV. There's the big fancy stadium where the Raiders are going to play. They're going to share that stadium with them. So there's some really big upside to what's going on in Las Vegas. So who they have come in could be really interesting. But the real question is we know those are open. What other openings could there be in the Mountain West Conference? Mm-hmm. And if you're a certain level of coaching talent and you look at what the pay is, where do you go? Because there's some thought that maybe Colorado State may have an opening as well. Mike Bobo, his tenure hasn't necessarily been great the last couple of years. They're not going to make a bowl game this year. They're only 4-7 right now. So could the Colorado State job come open as well? And if it is, when you compare all three of those jobs, man, Colorado State absolutely should be head and shoulders above the other two.
So candidates, now let's look at candidate-wise who could maybe sneak in, coaches that we would think of. Colorado State, who comes to your mind? Who would be a good fit for a Colorado State program who's kind of been on the fringe of being a good Mountain West contender, not winning it, but just being a contender, but just can't get over the hump. I'm off the top of our heads.
Well, I don't know. They've shown that they don't really care if there's a connection to Colorado State.
Yeah, that's for dang sure.
They've gone to the South. They've gone to the Midwest. They've gone in various places to find their coaches.
See,
they don't really care if you're part of the Colorado State tree. If that makes sense.
See, I think, and for this guy that I'm about to mention, New Mexico's too big of a dump. UNLV is just, about to finally catch up with the Joneses, if you will. I think Jay Hill would be a great fit at Colorado State.
Wow, Jay Hill.
At Weber State.
He's had tremendous success with the Wildcats.
It's time.
I agree.
It's really time for him to come out.
He deserves his shot at the next level.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. And I don't know what the situation would have been at BYU if Kalani Sitake would not have received the extension. They would have moved apart from him. Obviously, and I'm extremely happy for Sitake. One of the nicest men in the world. Got a second chance because they won a few games. Boise State was a big one. Utah State was a bigger one. Going to a bowl game is going to be a good one for them too in the Hawaii Bowl. But if he wouldn't have made it, I think Jay Hill would have gone there. But Colorado State provides a lot of opportunities for him, and they'll take good care of his wife as well. I really believe that. For me, Jay Hill would be a great fit.
I could absolutely see that happening. There are some other people from the state that are being talked about with these openings. Morgan Scally is a name that's being talked about at UNLV. If he doesn't,
Morgan Scally at UNLV, dude, that might work.
If he decides to go out on his own, that could be a great place for him to do that. Or he could stick around at Utah until Kyle Whittingham eventually decides to.
When he decides to go. Scally's a good look at you, and that's a good one, Eric.
Young, he's been a part of a very successful program. Very intelligent. Known to be a good recruiter.
Yeah, I like that.
The question there, though, is that some of the people in the administration at UNLV have a lot of connections to Southern California, USC and UCLA, so they may try to bring somebody from over there. I
want to ask you just quickly. I want to get your quick opinion on this. Speaking of USC, Clay Helton, has he done enough?
Look what he was close to being fired mid-season. He's turned things around. I don't know how you would let him go at this point.
If Urban Meyer comes calling, do you fire him?
If you know you have Urban Meyer for sure. Boy, that's a tough call.
That sucks to be Helton, but dude, look, sometimes if it's just, you're going to go to the dance with one girl and this incredibly beautiful girl comes over and says, I'll go with you instead. I don't know how you say no to Urban Meyer.
No.
And they have all the money in the world to offer him, by the way. There is no limit. Well, I guess there is a limit, but I mean, they're not strictly limited to him in regards of how much he would want.
No. I mean, you got weather. You got facilities that have just been improved. He's familiar with the West. I mean, it's been a while, but he's familiar. Dude knows how to coach. Dude knows how to win. But I think you have to be absolute sure that Urban Meyer is the absolute thing. Otherwise, I stick with Clay Helton. He's got 8 wins.
Yeah. It's gonna be tough. That's an intriguing situation over there. And again, I think Urban Meyer has that itch to come back to coaching, but he wants to make sure it's the right program that he'll benefit, knowing that he'll go in there and they can immediately start winning.
Right. He's smart. He doesn't want to go in and rebuild anything. I think he's too tired to go in there and rebuild a program somewhere else. It's not. No.
Could you imagine?
But he's an amazing analyst.
Oh, he's so good.
He's so
I didn't
good.
think I would like him.
On Fox.
I will be honest with you. I didn't think I'd like him. I have loved him. He's unbiased as all get out, by the way. He is extremely neutral, which is really cool to see. A guy who's been at Utah, Florida, and Ohio State can be that unbiased is amazing to me. Now, whether he truly believes that or not is yet to be seen. But he really is unbiased on the mic and gives great analysis, kind of digs into the coach's brain to give you the best thoughts. And I've thoroughly enjoyed his work so far. But I could definitely see if the right gig comes around, USC being that gig, I think he's gone.
Speaking of people coming and going, there's some college athletes, at least as it relates to Utah State, coming and going. We'll update you on who they are and what may be going on there. We'll also talk about our stat that blew our mind, our player of the week. And coming up a little bit later on, we'll also talk about what happened with the Utah Jazz. And college football playoff rankings come out next hour. We'll digest those as well. It's all ahead coming up right here on the Full Court Press on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Cash walking the sports you care about. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Think about it.
Would that make him the greatest ever, though?
Probably. He'd have to be in the discussion because look what he did and where he did it. Different locations, different conferences.
Oh, that just okay. So we're talking about off the air. We're just talking about Urban Meyer and what his legacy's been like. Everyone wants to talk about the troubles of our violations at Ohio State, at Florida, right? But when it came to coaching on the field, there is not, save it be Nick Saban, been a more dominating coach in the modern era of college football.
Consistently.
There you go.
I think Dabo is getting close. He's starting to creep into that discussion. But you look at what he's done and where he's done it. I mean, had Utah been in a Power 5 conference, he would have won a national title. He didn't, but he got him onto the stage.
Yeah.
And basically, because of what he did, got them into the Pac-12.
Mm-hmm.
He goes to Florida. He goes to national championships. He wins national championships. He goes to Ohio State, gets them to national championships, wins national championships.
And that was as a wild card, right? Because they didn't win their conference. And they still got in. They beat Wisconsin with Gary Anderson's Wisconsin 59-0. Got to the championship and then dominated Oklahoma, I believe, or Alabama. Just throttled them. How many did he win at Florida? Do you remember? Was it 2 or 3? Because I know in that first year he beat Ohio State with a very young Tim Tebow and Chris Leak as the starting quarterback. And by the way, Ohio State was favored by like 11.5 in that game. I was serving a church mission in Ohio State, and I'm not even joking you. During the week, not the day of, but during the week of that game, they have put out national champion t-shirts everywhere. They were gone early morning the next day, post-championship game day. They dominated them 44-14. They beat, who is it they beat in the national championship?
Okay, so he has 2 national championships at Florida and 1 at Ohio State.
So he has 3. Nick has, 6 right now? I think Nick Saban
I think he's...
I think it's
5 or 6.
It's 6. I'm pretty sure it's 6 because he's one away from meeting the man in Alabama's backyard, Mr. Paul Bear Bryant. But I mean, it's just crazy because he won. I'm thinking of the 2 of Florida. He won, beat Ohio State, and then the second one wasn't LSU. I can't remember who it was he beat in that national championship that second time after beating Alabama. I can't remember who it was. I don't think it was even close either. Was it Oklahoma? Might have been Oklahoma.
So Nick Saban won a national championship with LSU. And then he has 1, 2, 3.
He's won
4, 5 at Alabama.
So he's won 6 total.
He's won 6 total. To Urban Meyer's 3.
And he's lost twice. So he's 6-2 because he's lost twice to Clemson.
Yes.
Before that, he was unscathed. That's amazing. That's incredible. Paul Bear Bryant won 6 as well. He won in 61, 64, 65, 73, 78, 79 with Alabama. Saban won the one in 2003. Wasn't that a share or something like that? Because there was like 4 teams undefeated.
So his team finished number 1 in the coaches, but number 2 in the AP.
Yeah, that's right. Because
They
they
won
went
the
to the
Sugar
Sugar
Bowl.
Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the same year that Utah went to the Fiesta Bowl? And everyone was saying that, Utah could beat Nick Saban's LSU Tigers. That's how good everyone thought Utah was that year. Because they ended up playing Pitt in the Fiesta Bowl and then just throttled them. Oh, this is fun. This brings me back. Saban won his championships in 2003, and the fight with Bama was in this incredibly short span of 2009, 11, 12, 15, and 17.
Utah went to the Fiesta Bowl in
Was that
2004? Yes.
Okay. Oh, and Auburn. Who was in the... Do you have the... I know I'm asking you a lot of questions here on research, but who was in the New Year's Six that year?
It was BCS era.
That's right. It was the BCS era. So... Because I remember Utah. In fact, I was the equipment manager that year for Utah State, and I was on the sideline watching that Utah team play, and they were just. I mean, look, we sucked, but that team was really, really, really good, and they were 14th in the country at that time. And I can't remember what the New Year's Six looked like, but I remember saying they could have beat 5 out of those 6 teams.
They were undefeated that year. They beat Texas A&M. They beat Arizona. They beat USU, Air Force, New Mexico, North Carolina, UNLV, San Diego State, Colorado State, Wyoming, BYU, and then they beat Pittsburgh, who was ranked 19th at the time.
Okay, and then here's the controversy of that time. So there was undefeated teams from the following. Who was it? Let's see. 5 teams, right? Which was a record in the BCS era. USC, who was in the Pac-10, Oklahoma of the Big 12, Auburn of the SEC, Utah of the Mountain West Conference, and Boise State of the WAC. USC and Oklahoma were ranked number 1 and number 2 respectively in the preseason by both AP and coaches poll, but the other 3 undefeated teams were handicapped by the starting of the season out of the top 15. So that way, USC played Oklahoma in the BCS National Championship, and if I remember right, USC beat Oklahoma like 55-17. That game was over at the end of the first quarter. I think that was led by Carson Palmer, was the quarterback that year.
Oh, okay.
They were just stacked. Pete Carroll's first squad to be able to get into that thing. Auburn played Virginia Tech in the Sugar Bowl And, of course, Utah played Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh was the ACC champ. That was by Dave Wanstead's team, I believe. And they were the Big East, and they were ranked 21st. And then Boise State lost to Louisville in the Liberty Bowl. So the final rankings came out to be, let's see here. The final AP poll was this: USC 11-0, Auburn 13-0, Oklahoma was 12-1, Utah was 12-0. Even though they had just spanked Pittsburgh, they ended up staying behind Oklahoma, and there were people that were just livid all over the state of Utah, which I don't blame them. They were good enough to beat Auburn. I don't know if they beat USC, but they definitely beat Auburn. So, in saying all this, Eric, I know we're kind of off tangent because we're talking about Urban Meyer and how he's one of the greatest coaches ever. And by the way, you look at Urban Meyer's resume, and it's incredible. And if we're just saying off air that if he goes to USC and if he wins a national championship coming out of the Pac-12, what? Like, he did it in 3 separate conferences: Big Ten, SEC, and Pac-12.
Yeah.
3 out of the 5, and he won a national championship with them. In fact, he won national championships, if I'm not mistaken, in first years with Ohio State and with Florida.
In first years?
Yeah.
No.
No? What did he do in Ohio State in his first year? Because if I remember... Because wasn't that the year they were a wild card team?
He went to the national championship in his second year at Florida. And then in his second year at Ohio State.
So it's second years then. Okay. I thought it was first. Nonetheless, if he can win a national championship at USC, that's 3 out of 5. I don't know what else you can ask of him. That's pretty incredible. So with that, and as we have the college football playoff rankings coming out here later tonight, I got to ask you, does this whole mess with the college football playoff in the top 4 make you miss the BCS and say, you know what, maybe we had it right with the computers?
No, not necessarily, because at least you're still giving a chance for teams to play for the championship. I think it should be more than just 4 teams that are involved. But, that gets complicated.
Yeah.
But at least there is some semblance of, let's see who can play to win. Rather than using a bunch of computer models, maybe aided by some assistance from humans, to determine who plays for a national championship. Because in the BCS era, you also had teams kind of trying to game the system a little bit with margins of victory and things like that got a little out of hand.
Fair enough. I just feel like the computer's smarter than the human. I think humans are screwing it up.
Well, I think there have been cases where this committee says, "Oh, what's the eye test? Does this team pass the eye test?" What does that mean? That's so subjective.
Yeah.
Let's look at what this team has done. And the teams that they faced, what have they done? Are they really playing good teams? Should they be the best of the best? Instead of, well, I really like how their quarterback looks.
Yeah, right?
So what? Does he win games? Is he beating good teams? That's what should matter. So we'll find out college football playoff rankings about 30 minutes from now.
You're right. So we want to get to some Aggie news. In fact, there's actually a couple Aggie notes that just came through that I want to hit it on as well. Utah State football, though, has a player transferring out, Eric.
Yeah, talking about people coming and going. Baron Gaikowski announced today that he has entered the NCAA transfer portal. He says in a note on Twitter that he released today, he says, as of yesterday morning, I've entered the NCAA transfer portal and I'm open to contact with coaches from different institutions. Now, he is going to graduate in December, so he'll have 2 years to play. But he had high praise for Logan, the place where he met his wife. That's where they've been the last 3 years. And it says it breaks his heart to leave. but he's looking forward to new opportunities and cherishes his brotherhood that he was able to make with so many great teammates. I'm sad to see this. He was a guy that before the season began, we were talking about who were going to be the impact players, and we had him on our list. And then we were looking over the roster, and we're like, where's Baron Gajkowski?
Yeah.
And so we contact the athletic department and say, hey, did you guys miss something? Or is something got left out here? And then they reply back, nope.
In fact, I
He's
remember
not playing.
like by the third weekend, they're like, hey, just chuck the media guide. It's no worth anymore.
Like, oh, that's big news. Because he had some injuries, but he looked aggressive and it looked like he was going to be a leader in that linebacker core after spring. And then come summertime, he's not on the roster. So he's been on campus. He's been going to school, but he hasn't been participating with Utah State football. And now he's going to go try his hand somewhere else. I'm sad to see him go.
Yeah, me too.
I hope he has a good opportunity.
I hope he stays healthy.
I hope yes. He's had some injuries that have been problematic. And maybe he just needed time to get his body healthy, and now he's feeling good, and maybe he doesn't see a place for him in this current Utah State football system. I don't know. But wish him the best of luck.
And then on the other side for USU men's basketball, they just had a recent signing as of yesterday. They have, according to Coach Craig Smith, have signed a native of Allen, Texas. He'll have 4 years of eligibility. Nigel John. He's a 6'9", 250-pound post player. According to Coach, he says, quote, "We are thrilled that Nigel is joining the Aggie family. He and his family are wonderful people. Nigel fits the culture of our program in a big-time way. He has a tremendous work ethic and has a motor that runs at a high level." Good fit to be Coach Smith. Nigel has a great blend of athleticism and skill level that will fit our style of play very well. Now, John averaged a double-double with the Texas Alliance homeschool, turning in just under 17 points and just under 11 rebounds per game, and was also a force defensively, averaging 3 blocks per game. John's scoring output included 21 double-digit scoring outings with 9 games with 20 or more points, shooting 80 or better % from the floor.
Coach Smith is loading up on young big men.
Yeah, he's a big fan of that, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
And then on the other side, just a quick note that San Jose State on December 4th at 9:15 Mountain Time will be on ESPN2. That's what you get for being a top 15 basketball team. Utah State men's basketball will open up its Mountain West play at San Jose State. Then they'll come home for Fresno, their lone Division I opponent at home this year for the rest of the way. They'll have San Jose State at San Jose State. That'll be on ESPN2 at 9:15 Mountain Time.
Nice. All right, coming up next here in the Full Court Press, let's get into the stat that blew our minds and our player of the week. Two things, both kind of reflecting on the week that was, and some of the other things that happened over this past weekend. We'll update you on that. Don't forget college football playoff rankings coming up in about 30 minutes from now. We'll also digest what happened with the Utah Jazz last night. And now that the weekend is in the books, a lot more people are starting to look at what are the college football bowl projections that are out there. And what are they saying about the Utah State Aggies? What are their potential destinations? We'll take a look at that as well. Coming up here on the Full Court Press.
The Aggies are number one here. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
They're very effective running the football. They've got really good skill guys outside. They've got a really good runner. Whitlow's a really good runner. So this team is very good on special teams. So, this is, the best team we've played probably so far this year, and it'll be the most challenging place that we've played. So, real challenge for our players on our team.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. That was Nick Saban saying Auburn's the best team we've played. Is it just short-term memory loss? Is this just trying to get your team ready, or is he not giving respect to LSU? Or is this just Nick Saban being Nick Saban?
That's Nick Saban.
Like a lot of college coaches.
Well, and look, Nick Saban was under who for how long? Bill Belichick. So he learns that, Bill Belichick made the 0-something Jets seem like they were the top of the team of the AFC. in his press conference. He went in there. Man, they are really good on special teams. They got really, really good wide receivers. Obviously, Sam Darnold can do a lot of good things that can just it gives me nightmares at night. And I'm like, if he was your quarterback, you'd have nightmares. But, dude, you're facing him. What are you talking about? This team sucks. I remember one reporter called him out on it and said, look, this team's 0-something. Like, what are you seeing at him? He goes, yeah, they've played some really good football all season long. And I'm like, oh,
would not be baited into that. Yeah, it's the local example of that is Coach Howdy Doody over at the Air Force Academy.
I love when you call him that.
Just every team they face, they're just the best team ever.
Howdy Doody.
He just gets that look on his face like, my goodness, how can we be expected to win? So many times I just want to slap that look off his face. All right. Coach Howdy Doody. Stat that blew our minds and player of the week. Let's start with the stat.
Okay.
Shall we? I had a hard time deciding on one, so I'm cheating. I'm using two.
Okay, that's fine.
Arizona State had lost 4 consecutive games. They had a 4-game losing streak. They lost to Utah. They lost to UCLA. They lost to USC. They lost to Oregon State, although Oregon State is kind of rebounding and having a somewhat respectable season. But they had not led in a game since October 12th before beating Oregon 31-28. Isn't that incredible?
That's amazing.
Where did that come from?
Yeah.
And then the other one I got to cheat on here, Maryland. They started off their season just on an incredible hot streak. They scored 142 points in their first 2 games. Since then, they have scored a combined 145 in the 9 games since.
What?
Isn't that nuts? They scored almost as much in their first 2 as they've scored in their last 9.
Oh, that's sad.
Do we need a reminder that Bob Davie replaced Mike Loxley
yeah.
in New Mexico?
Don't tell the Lobos that. Hey, mine's from the TV department. Now, the Patriots beat the Cowboys 13-9 on Sunday on Fox. Think of all the great games that you've been watched recently in the NFL. There's been some really good ones in the last 2 years.
Yeah, there have been some good ones this year.
The Cowboys-Patriots game drew the highest regular season overnight ratings for any NFL game on any network in the last, you want to guess how many years?
4.
12.
Wow.
Think of that.
Really?
So since 2007, right? So you're talking about Patriots versus Giants in the undefeated season. You're talking about the Rams-Chiefs shootout last year. You're talking about, some great football games. This is the highest regular season overnight rating for any NFL game on any network in the last 12 years.
That is amazing.
What the crap? How does that work? And that was a really garbage football game, too. And that comes from a Patriots fan.
It was hyped. It was highly
guys
anticipated.
are wasted. Yeah, we all wasted our time.
My player of the week goes to Kason Carlson, the quarterback at Skyview.
Good choice.
16 of 23 passing for 186 yards, 20 rushing attempts for 107 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns. All the hype and not hype, but all the talk about the incredible athlete that Mason Foslev is. Kason Carlson has been outstanding as a quarterback for the Bobcats, and he helped them bring home some hardware, which they've never had in their trophy case.
Love it. My player of the week is Boise State's running back, George Olani, who had 5 yards in the first half. He finished with 16 carries, 178 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He was remarkable versus Utah State. He's carrying guys. 3 extra yards. In fact, I don't know what his yards after contact was. I should have looked that up.
He
had over 130 yards rushing in the first half, Eric.
He was incredible. He was good, but Utah State was equally bad, which made him look better.
I don't know, dude. I think...
But he was good.
I don't know, man.
He was good.
He was incredible.
All right, quick step aside. When we come back, I'll let you know what's coming up next hour. We got college football playoffs. We got the bowl projections for Utah State. A lot of college football talk coming up next on the Full Court Press.
Interviews, analysis, and a little bit of fun mixed in. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Ajay, Salvesen, Eric Frandsen. It's Full Court Press continuing here on The Fan. And coming up next hour, College Football Playoff Committee releases their latest top 25 poll. Who's in the top 4? Does that change? Does Utah move up? And if so, by how much, and how far does Oregon fall? We'll also look at what are the updated bowl projections. Utah State is bowl eligible. Where are people saying they might end up? And how do you feel about some of those projections? Certainly have an opportunity to get to 7 wins. That might help with some of the locations the Aggies could go. We'll discuss that coming up next hour as well. So stick around, stay tuned, stick tuned. How about that? That'll be fun. Stick around.
I don't want to hear any more crap about
Come
me.
up more next hour of the Full Court Press.